Here's episode 1, part 3. How to make this shit work, this ethanol field work. Let's get some facts in, shall we? Let me explain some statistics I actually found on the use of corn alone. I'm not talking about all the grains that we grow and use all together, no. Not even talking about them. According to 2019, we went to 95 million acres of farmland used for corn alone. This is already ridiculous, but this is what they're doing. What's more, that's more than the statistics cited by the Real Diet of Man. You can either buy the book, or you can get it PDF 4. That was citing 90 million acres of land. When you factor that it requires 2 feet of irrigation water on top of the green water given by rainfall to raise a corn crop on average, you multiply that by 90 million acres. I'm sorry, 95 million acres. And I forgot there's certain other maths to factor in because of the 2 feet. You multiply that, whatever that number you get to is, per acre, and then you multiply, how many gallons that the 2 feet of water becomes by acre. You multiply that by 95 million. That gives you 61,750,000,000,000 gallons of fucking water! Or more for corn alone. Think about how much cheaper water bills would be for the rest of us. Some of that fucking freed up. Try to think about that for a fucking minute. Woo! Holy fuck! I'm not even started. Okay, 32% of that corn in the States is used to feed animals. It's fed to animals the way it is right now. A separate 30% of the corn is used to make ethanol in the States. But what if that 32% used for animal feed and the 30% grown for ethanol were co-cropped with fava beans on the same fields, companion crop with the corn, and fava beans are cropped with them, companion crop on the same row, to raise the output of the corn multiple times over. Then that animal feed corn was wet mill processed to have its germ separated, said germ would be pressed of its oil to make biodiesel. You distill the degermed grain, ideally with a small amount of multigrain to ensure that it's all the enzymatic activities all happened and it's all fermented fully. Ideally at the distillery, like they've done with the German co-ops. Because Germany, pre-Nazi Germany, pre-nationalist democratic socialists that voted Hitler in out of fucking idiocy and hubris, Germany, before that shit happened, the distillery co-ops were quite fucking nice. I would argue. The cooperatives of Germany were quite nice. I'll explain them in a separate video. Side note for it. If I can't... Oh, wait. No, I got it now. I'll just explain them real quickly. If I get it to fucking load. Because in 1877, Nicholas Otto, he basically operated some ethanol vapors on the fields. But anyway, check this out. Germany had little native petroleum, but had lots of agriculture. Its economy was heavily invested in agriculture with the capacity to produce much more than could be marketed. Germany had a surplus of sorghum and potatoes, and the government had subsidized its potato farmers for years. Again, I am so anti-subsidy, it's unreal. This is one of the exceptions to the rule. I swear it is. I'd swear on my fucking skin. Or my fucking testicles. This is the exception to the rule about subsidies. During the time, bumper crop after bumper crop decreased the market price until the entire farm economy was on the verge of total collapse in Germany. The German government hoped that by encouraging distillers it would eliminate the subsidy program. It could eliminate it and regain its loans. So in 1887, the German government enacted financial incentives, tax exemptions, loans, and guarantees for distillers and farmer cooperatives. The distilleries and farmer co-ops were not government owned. They were bunch of private-owned places. At the time, before the private property rights was subverted in the name of the nationalist Dem sock bullshit that voted Hitler in. Might as well ad-lib that because that's not mentioned in the page that I'm talking about. A farmer would bring his excess potato crop to the cooperative distillery. See, distiller co-op here. No money changed hands. The distillery marketed its share of the fuel and some of the fermented product, in which the spent mash. The farmer received back a portion of his alcohol and most of the spent mash. The farmer used his mash, especially the liquid portion, to fertilize his land, and his mash-fed animals became the meat, in some cases meat, dairy, and eggs he could sell as a profit. His alcohol provided heat, light, and power for new machinery, or he sold it to others in his area. These cooperative distilleries were also a great deal for the government. Within a few years, Germany's farm economy had stabilized and grew. The economy had such a healthy export business in potatoes, alcohol engines, meat, dairy, and eggs, I'm pretty sure as well. And it didn't have to buy foreign oil. Employment increased. Commodity surpluses were checked and balanced out. Now, all this was accomplished without depleting the soil, which increased in depth during this period from 1 to 5 inches a damn year. We could be doing that all over the States right damn now. And you wonder why I'm such a David Bloom nerd. He's got a point. Okay, continuing on. Ideally at distillery. Again, what if this corn, the 30% and the 32% of the corn were used to make alcohol? First, if they were companion crop of fava beans to increase the output and shrink the amount of land use, you grew the companion crop fields by putting mulch down and only strip tilling what you needed to plant. And when you harvested the last of the fava beans, before you cut the plants down, you hired people out there and machines if you wanted to do both to do that. And you harvested the legumes, and then the corn harvesters come out there, and you chop all the the fava plants and the corn plants down, and leave that with some mulch down and some nitrogen-containing fertilizer to make sure weeds are suppressed, they won't grow, and ready for another crop rotation. Anyways, you take the corn, you wet mill process it to separate the germ out, press the germ of the oil to turn into biodiesel, keep that shit off the goddamn store shelves. Distilled the degermed grain, the corn, ideally with a small amount of malted grain, to be sure it's all fermented well. At these distillery co-ops, like pre-nutsuck Germany had, which again works super well, that were ideally would be placed between the feedlots and cornfields to lessen the trucking and all that stuff of both the grain and the alcohol. Mix the defatted germ back to the distilled germed grain leftovers and spent in distiller grains from liquor distilleries. Then feed that dried distiller grain defatted meal mix, moistened with water, moisten a little bit with water, at 1 part to every 4 to 7 parts freshly mowed grass. After you've grown them up by regenerative grazing them for rotating them from paddock to paddock in a certain pattern, which I've shown in the conventional farming's food bar video. Let me explain why I suggest this, besides explaining the damn distillery co-ops, how fucking lit that shit was. Some other reasons for this. The biodiesel from the corn oil processing would, if used up for B20 for the farm equipment of those areas, would make the engines of the equipment last longer, cut a lot of smoke pollution in the air, which would clean it up, and would also lessen, do emphasis on insurance and maintenance, instead of repair and rebuilding. A certain degree of economic self-sufficiency and market-derived, both profitable self-sufficiency, localism, and market regionalism, as an economic term I've theorized a little bit of, would take off and make things, goods and services, food, way cheaper as well. Next thing is this growing of the corn, done this way, would potentially cut lots of costs down inland. Also would cut down in water use. The mulch strip tilling would regenerate the soil over time. I mean, at the bare minimum, you can cut it down by at least by 43%, because the same fields would put out 43% more corn. That's quite a damn bit of land. You would no longer need to farm. This companion cropping idea was based on a study done, that came from the National Academy of Sciences of the States, showing Chinese researchers found fava bean companion cropped corn in phosphorus-poor dirt went up by a minimum of 43% of corn yield and 26% increase of fava bean yield. So land and water savings potentials are freaking massive. This also puts nitrogen back in the dirt on top of that. Now, I think some of the profit gains from this could be used to spend a little on Joel Wallach's blooming minerals to sprinkle a little bits of in the fields once in a while to keep the minerals stocked up. That way you can cut using, with all those trace minerals in the corn, at that point, and the distiller meal, with the fatted distiller meal, those trace minerals will actually be there in that final product after the other two uses are gotten out of it to feed them. So you won't need to use trace mineral multivitamin pills and mineralized salt blocks for them to lick on as much, right? You won't need that kind of stuff as much. So think of that shit. Think of how much money you'd save if you save this as a country willing to hear this out. You don't even have to use corn for this model. This could work with different grains to growing too, based on where you live. You just won't be able to take the germ and separate it and get the oil for biodiesel out, but you'd only have two products. It's okay. Y'all can make that work. This is a framework. I'm just saying about corn because that's what we got. We got it in abundance. The reason is, the next reason after that is when you remove 2/3 of the corn's volume in starch from said corn, you make the proteins, the vitamins, and the minerals more bioavailable to the cow and fed that to them instead of feeding the 10 pounds of the original corn to get 1 pound of muscle meat and fat beef. They get 17% more weight if fed on this stuff, on distiller grains instead, minimum. While this better feed for them would be only 1/3 of the original weight. This is not factoring in, the full regenerative, feedlotting I'm talking about here, basically describing. And half-ass the zero grazing method of mixing this meal I'm talking about with freshly mowed grasses and greenery, and even factoring a little bit of silage into that. This would be a happy middle ground between the conventional farming we got right now and just getting pure grass-fed, grass-fish, finishing, and create far more jobs for people. The water saving and land saving benefits would be higher for pure grass feeding. the land savings benefits would be, the water savings would be higher for grass feeding. Because it would only be 468 billion gallons of water, instead of 60 trillion or more gallons, 61 trillion 750 billion on average we're doing now. The cost is more. You would have to migrate your cows to more pasture-oriented areas instead of keeping the fields going and so on and so forth. So that just makes it more complicated. Or you would have to convert these 95 million acres of growing land into grasslands, and then mix the unfarmable land with it to finalize the 131 acres. Thus our 131 million acres. Sorry. All you have to do is add in a little bit of water back to the oil removed distiller grain mix meal with to moisten it before adding adding it to 4 to 7 parts freshly mowed grasses and even a little silage to go with it. Consider how much less methane than the 1.9 to 2% that cows actually make total. Fuck the vegan liars. Fuck the vegetard lying twats that are lying about this. I actually can back this up with actual energy and greenhouse gas measurement statistics. Same with the fucking water usage statistics. Beef isn't a fucking water hog. This is a very good book to get. The Case for Better Meat. Better than what we're raising now. Anyway. I got it actually. It's on the infographic on their website. And on page 141, yeah, suck my dick. Here it is, Animal Agro. The line cross sections the cows. Beef cattle. Rice fields are worse than beef cows. Fuck off. Anyway, sorry. That bullshit just pisses me off too. This cut trillions of gallons of water out. It would also make a better premium out of, it'd be a sweet middle ground. All you'd have to do is add just the water back to this oil reduced or reduced fat distiller grain meal with solubles to get them, add it to wet them a little bit before, again, mix them with 4 to 7 parts freshly mowed grasses of greenery that they can also eat, along with some silage sprinkle in there. Or if you were a dairy milker, a little bit of soybean product meal and hemp seed and crushed hemp seeds to make sure they get more milk put out. Increase the dairy output to a certain extent. Don't go stupid, but still. Anyway, because too much soy protein meal is not good for them either. Pretty sure it's not. But anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but still. I don't think it's too good for them to go crazy with it. This could cut land use down a bit, but it can also cut trillions of gallons of water down. Not nearly as much as the going pure grass-fed, but it cuts back land use more than the grass-fed would. And the next thing is if we use the Brazilians' more permacultural methods of growing sugarcane to tweak our own sugarcane growing in the southern states, that could add massive amounts to ethanol to our country and our fuel economy, and also finalize the more sustainable ethanol fuel amount. 5 to 10% of our sugarcane can go to that. I mean, we can do a lot without sugar, Holy fuck. Whether it's just eating a bunch of fruits or just eating sugar, period, and add it in. We could use a lot less of it. Trust me. If we ate 1/10 of the carbs that we do now, with all the modern medicine, the nutritional knowledge, and the better quality stuff we can get, I think we'd be healthier than the people 100 years ago to some extent. Just a little bit! way, profitable self-sufficiency out the fucking ass. Massive savings in animal harm and cost of overly centralized single crop farming. And we give a big fuck you to the corporations who over-engineer tractors with the computers on purpose to hurt the working man. If you wanted to wirelessly program a planter to space out kernels of corn out so you could send out people to plant the legumes to make the vines to make them grow between the corn's growth after a certain point, let it be easy to do so. Stop the fucking computer monopolizing, you fucking assholes! This is another way the big corporate twats through the state, the governments of the planet are trying to fuck you out of your property rights and say, oh, we're leasing it. Fuck, how about lease these? Lease these nuts, asswipe! Support tractor hacking. Support the Americans and the Ukrainians that are working together to do that. And support the goddamn right to fucking repair! Ooh. But then again, supporting them in this model and using dispersed small to medium scale and non-corporate, aka laissez-faire capitalism, green laissez-faire, green capitalism, with emphasis on modifying industrial agriculture with permaculture practices, will promise and set and substantiate for security and safety and defense of your food supply for you and others around you. We don't need overly computerized farming equipment. We need to actually deregulate the computerization of tractors, deregulate the tractor markets to allow more working people in, and new upstarts for in designs. Bring some 3D printer factoring in for metalworking, to help metalworking at some point. Make the engines more efficient with simple engine tweaks and compatibility with newer advances for said engines and their parts, while allowing better exhaust system controls and other things like that. Then apply the simplest of computer tech where they would be best to work best. Make the damn things able to be worked on by tractor mechanics without having to go nearly back up to work with fucking Ukrainian hackers and a multi-country coalition to get them copies of the corporate assholes repair computers and software on bootleg scanning computer tools to ensure their fucking right to repair and ownership are cemented over these fucking things, because fuck leasing what should be yours when you put your work to it, your labor, and your property rights into. That's a dystopian dissolving of property rights with corporations through and the rest of the governments in an almost commie and technocratic style. I will claim that shit and die on that goddamn hill. And those who say, if this shit's so good, why ain't it being used? Fuck off, it's a cop-out. Ask why nuclear power's not being widespread in the States. Ask the country why nuclear power's not fucking widespread as it should be. If we were really capitalistic, we'd be clean nuke and right the fuck now with our entire electric grid, and we would be doing the delta generators going through the first two sets of transformers and substations that are delta, and then going delta to Y and doing Y the rest of the way, and doing harmonic suppression out the fucking ass, because that's more profitable. Oh, they don't tell you that, do they? They don't talk about that enough. The delta to Y infrastructure has actually got more power delivery capability than what we're fucking doing. It's politicking and control. Suck my balls. If shit's so good, why ain't they using it? Ask your fucking regulatory faggots that. Ask the fucking clean nuclear advocates why they get clusterfucked by the fucking corporate asswipes. Ask why BioRoot Energy, which I just spoiled a major fucking spoil for you, gets fucked over and kept out of the mainstream media. are kept in the dark from public eye. It's about fucking control. All mainstream shit-lib media and neocon, Fox and Newsmax are not going to tell you about this shit. There's a vested interest against this shit. And the incentive against by the fed asses is why there's too many chicken shits not willing to invest in them. Look at how fucking big oil and governments go hand in hand. The USD is called the petrodollar for a motherfucking reason. Look at energy fucking grid, and petroleum policies. There's a reason that neocons fucking warmonger and fake environmentalists fearmonger nuclear power in spite of the fact get rid of the waste and reuse it, you stupid motherfucking cunts. There are third world shitholes that have more nuclear-powered electric grids than we do! God damn it! If it's so good, why ain't we using it? Such a fucking loaded question! Just looking at how bad the politicking has fucking held us back. That butt fucking rape insanity pisses me off. I'm sorry, I worked a sweat up, didn't I? Whew. I'm going to end this before I have worse than Lewis Black would hope to get killed from. You know, an aneurysm that bad. I'll see you later. Take care.